Welcome to Simplified by AHSAN YouTube channel. In this video, we will cover the topic of liability, its kinds and measurement of civil and criminal liability. What is liability? If one person do an act which is against rights of others, he will have suffer consequences. Such sufferings can be regarded as liability. However, different jurists have given different point of views. As Salman says, liability is a relationship of need between wrongdoer and remedy available for the wrong that has been committed. What are the kinds of liability? Liability is of many kinds, but in this video we shall cover only three main kinds of liability, that are civil, penal and vicarious liability. Civil liability. Its purpose is enforcement of plaintiff's rights in civil proceedings, and a civil liability arises from a civil wrong. Examples of civil proceedings can be recovery of debt, recovery of damages, etc. There may be some wrongs which give rise to both civil and criminal proceedings, for example assault, defamation and theft. There are also some common punishments in civil and criminal proceedings like imprisonment and imposing fine, etc. The outcome or remedy in a civil proceeding is generally in form of damages, specific performance or delivery of possession, etc. It is measured by the magnitude of wrong done. Now coming to the criminal or penal liability. Criminal liability's theory is concerned with the punishments of wrongdoers. A penal liability may arise from both a civil or criminal wrong. Three aspects of penal liability are as following. First one is condition, second one is incidence, and third is measuring of penal liability. Conditions. There are two conditions which are considered while determination of penal liability. These are actus rea and mens rea. Mens rea is a essential component of crime which is guilty mind or intention to do an offense, while actus rea is a practically done offense. Both conditions are necessary to be proved to determine the penal liability. Second point, that is incident. It means wrongdoer. What was the reason behind commission of the offense? Was it done intentionally or negligently? After determination of this aspect, criminal liability is determined. Third aspect of measuring a penal liability. It can be measured on several grounds like rules set by courts, age of offender and his intention, etc. What is vicarious liability? A wrongdoer is liable to punishment, but in some cases an other person can also be made liable for an offense. Such liability is vicarious. In civil law, a master is responsible for acts of his servants, and legal representatives are also responsible for acts of the dead man whom they are representing. In criminal law, no one is liable to be punished for offense committed by someone else. Corporations are vicariously liable for the acts of their agents. How a criminal or penal liability is measured? Salman says that three things should be considered to determine criminal liability. First one is motive of the offense. If the motivation to commit the crime was high, the punishment will be greater. To suppress and reduce motivation towards crimes, penal liability is imposed. If a criminal gets a great profit from a crime, he will be given more punishment to establish rule of proportionality. This rule has an exception, as a criminal would have committed an offense on basis of necessity. For example, Shahzad steals coronavirus vaccine in pandemic because he could not afford to buy, and court will lessen his liability. The second aspect that Salman gives is magnitude of the offense. Criminal liability is also measured on basis of magnitude of offense. If magnitude is greater, liability will also be greater. Considering only profit gain of offender is not enough. What damages assailant has suffered is also very important. Only motive is not enough. Magnitude is very important to determine penal liability. If magnitude of offense is low, liability will be low. This is because a person who wants to commit an offense will choose the offense of less magnitude. If liability of two offenses are same but magnitude of both are different, then criminal will opt for the high magnitude offense. The third one aspect to determine the criminal liability is character of offender. If character of offender is worse, the punishment will be very high. Habitual offenders are strictly punished. Punishment is considered by analyzing character of an offender. If he is a normal person, his punishment will be low. If habitual, more punishment. Bad behavior and bad psyche and character is due to lack of responsibility, due to which some criminals are not afraid of any punishment, even death. Such offenders are desired to be punished more severely. Habitual criminals are given more imprisonment, and first offenders are given less imprisonment. And if they show good character, their punishment is more reduced. And how the civil liability is measured. Motive is not considered to determine civil liability, but magnitude is considered. Circumstances which led to commit offense are not important. Thus, evil will of offender is important. Usual punishment is compensation that is given by offender to aggrieved person as a punishment, but in penal liability, compensation only is not enough. The offender is also punished. For example, he is given imprisonment.